Once upon a time, it was said the sun never set on it. It was a source of national pride. This country earned respect around the globe. It should also be said the British Empire helped us earn untold riches into the bargain. There was good and bad, of course, as there is with just about everything. Now it's in vogue to see the empire as little more than an oppressive tool of subjugation. The first black footballer to play for Liverpool, Howard Gale, has turned down an MBE as the word empire was, he said, against my values. It wasn't perfect, but it brought order, security, education and democracy to much of the world. It's time the empire strikes back.
Nick, I don't even know where to start with this. It brought good and bad. It brought good for Britain. It brought bad for the colonised people all over the world who are still struggling to recover from centuries of underdevelopment, from the transfer of wealth from their economies into Britain to build this nation into a great industrial power at their expense. And not even talking about the economic reality of empire, the exploitation that was deliberately built into the very concept of colonial exploitation. It was founded on an ideology of white supremacy. We all need to reject the empire. And the fact that the establishment in this country still expects people whose own families are still suffering as a result of colonialism to embrace the label of empire is offensive, and it needs to change. It needs to change if we are truly to become a tolerant society that embraces people of all backgrounds, because there's no way somebody like me, who personally has seen the devastating mental effects of imperialism, inner as well as external, could ever sign up to a label of empire.
And can you step off the soapbox now? Maybe let me get a word in. Perhaps I can refer you to some work by some learned scholars in India who point out that India effectively was a disparate bunch of warring tribes. There was murder, there was widespread mayhem, and the British, I agree, they didn't do it by necessarily diplomatic means. Might had to be right on occasions, but the British put in a system that actually brought about education, that actually brought about partial emancipation of women, that actually brought about democracy, that made India where it is today. India is a classic example, and I did say right at the top, there is good and there is bad. There is a lot of good. You must acknowledge some of that.
Let's look. I think, you know, you say it's in vogue to hate the empire. I actually disagree. I think it's in vogue to regard the empire through these rose-tinted lenses as a kind of benevolent Victorian NGO that went around building schools and hospitals. Yes, the empire left infrastructure in countries. Let's look at Africa. The infrastructure the empire built, it wasn't for the development of Africans. It wasn't to enhance their trade or their cultural structures. It was to extract gold, cocoa, tin, copper, rubber from the interior to the sea so it could be shipped to build Britain. After the Second World War, Britain rebuilt its economy by repaying American loans directly with raw commodities from the empire. Everything it did was not designed to benefit the people in those countries. It was designed to benefit Britain, and it shows. A
question, and we must bring some of the other panel in a moment. Last one for you, how have some of the countries fared since the empire took down the Union flag?
Well, I'll just talk about the country my family's from, Ghana.
Ghana, maybe we could talk about some of the African countries.
A monoculture, which is another thing the empire did. It created monocultures. It chose the commodity most profitable. Ghana, it was cocoa. The entire economy was built on cocoa, which was great when cocoa was booming. The cocoa price collapses, the economy collapses. Ghana's never recovered.
Okay.
You can go around Africa
so
looking at all of these. They're all extractive countries. None of them have managed to master manufacturing or technology or the service industries, and that is a direct legacy of colonialism.
Now, someone who, of course, was a schoolboy when the empire first started, Greg, let's...
No, I do remember Empire Day, so it shows
do you really?
I can just remember.
Remind the viewers what Empire Day was.
Empire Day was a day when all the kids got them waved flags and the rest of it, and it became Commonwealth Day probably 2 years later. So I do remember Empire Day when I was a little kid. I don't agree with a word of what you've said, Nick. I mean, I really don't. I mean, you've managed to miss out slavery out of all this.
Oh, hang on. Which country was at the forefront of stopping slavery?
Yes, but which country was at the forefront of promoting it for many, many years?
Yes, and then saw
and that was the British Empire. But you must understand that if you've black heritage, you look at what the British did in Africa and you say, hang on, this wasn't acceptable. We just turned up and took it over, reorganised the boundaries, drew straight lines, said that tribe's that.
Hang on. I appreciate there was and I've said that, but again, built schools, built railways, built bridges, left that infrastructure.
What I'm sort of failing to understand is what the point is now in terms of what is the solution you're looking for? Are you looking for more national pride? Are you protecting? I'm not. We've got to live in today, and obviously countries evolve, policies evolve, people change.
I think what I'm after is, and no one can, whatever Mr Gale thinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
We must respect that. But it's time to stop seeing empire as a dirty word. Because there are benefits. I take on board, of course, both the points interesting on my right, but there have been good points, and I do think that has to be accepted.
But is there a responsibility? Do we need a responsible sort of action in terms of what is, what Af was saying?
This lady's not for turning, are you?
No, but is there something we can do in terms of compensation? Should we be doing more for people from?
Before we even talk about reparations, which I wasn't going to open that can of worms. I think we can't embrace empire or our history until we've been honest about it. And what people in this country seem to want to do is, having gone from a position where we ignore the truth about the bad things that happened to a position where we just celebrate it. We need to be honest. Most people in this country don't know about empire. They don't know the devastating consequences it had. They don't know about the concentration camps. They don't know about the famines. They don't know about the commodity exploitation. The side effects, some of which have been benevolent, were not accomplished because they were meant to benefit people. It was just a consequence.
India didn't have schools.
The main point.
There were no schools in India.
3 million people died
this is fantastic.
in a famine that the British created.
Well,
how can you say that the fact that there are a few schools left behind?
I seem to be being pushed along the peninsula. My only hope of an ally.
Hello,
Michelle.
Yes.
And?
Well, I have to say, this whole conversation was started by someone turning down the MBE because of the reference to the empire. First and foremost, I'd never even considered an MBE enough to think about what do those letters actually stand for. And now that I've considered it, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I think what an accolade. To be offered an MBE is fantastic. And before I came on here, I spoke to a friend of mine who received an MBE and accepted it. He's a black guy. He told me it is the proudest thing that he has. I asked him, what about these connotations of empire, slavery, whatever? And he said, what an accolade to stand here in 2016 as a black man and have, my ancestors gone through the things that they've gone through. They were suppressed. They didn't have their talents recognised. They weren't able to showcase who they were. Fast forward now, what a lesson to give to his son. He lives in a country now that has history, but it's history, the good, the bad, the ugly. We are where we are today. You can't deny the history, and who knows where we would be today. Where we are today is a society that's tolerant of people, that gives opportunities to those people, whoever you are, whichever colour, creed or anything, to shine. And this is an accolade that I think should be celebrated, and you can't deny the history.
I think the good, the bad and the ugly is a really good... It's like the three men on the pledge panel today, good, bad and ugly. So going to Greg as the ugly... No, that's a fair...
You're certainly not the good one.
There you go, by default. I mean, I don't want to be judgmental about your friend, Michelle, but one of the side effects, one of the long-term consequences of empire, when the physical regime of empire fell apart, what was left was the mental colonisation. And a lot of people who were born in the empire or who are descended from people born in the empire have this residue where they are colonised. They look up to the empire themselves. They were taught to believe that Britain was superior to them, that English civilization was superior to their own civilization.
Hasn't life moved on?
No. My mother was raised to believe that a princess, the definition of a princess, is a little white girl with blonde ringlets in Windsor Palace.
Yeah, but guess what? The definition of a president now is a black guy. The first lady is a black lady. Life moves on.
That's got rid of racial divisions in America. In fact, Obama's election has proved that we are a completely post-racial society where there's no injustice or brutality or oppression based on race.
But life moves on.
It hasn't moved on yet. I would
love
to be able to sit around the table and say...
this MBE celebrated in this fantastic...
I would love to be able to say
the MBE discussion a bit irrelevant? I mean, it's a peg to get you in for this week, to get to don't knock it. It doesn't matter that it's... Well, the MBE argument, I don't buy at all. I don't think it matters. I mean, it's called an MBE. No one ever thinks of it as a member of the British Empire. And I really don't...
But you have to respect his decision.
I respect his decision to take it, but I don't think that's relevant. There is a relevant discussion to be had about what happened, about empire and what it meant. And in a multicultural society as we are now, you've got to be...
But that's courtesy of the empire. thanks to the empire, we have a multicultural society because we were able to welcome all these people from these other countries.
We're being really embracing of at the moment.
I mean, look at us. Hopefully we are.
You say you want us to acknowledge and celebrate our imperial past. At the same time, nobody seems very happy about the consequence, which is that we have a multiracial society where people from all over the world have moved here.
I don't want people to see word empire akin to a word, if I took now, I'd take us all off air. It's almost like a swear word, and it shouldn't be. I acknowledge there was bad, but I ask that you acknowledge there is good.
Right, you two. Are you going to agree or not? I don't think you are.
Agree to disagree, but disagree to part.
Right.
That's what we're going to do.